Yes, thank you very much. I want to introduce myself very shortly. My name is Felix Locker, and I'm working with Srinka at the YLSA East team, and I'm also the YLSA speaker. And my colleague Benjamin Bayer is co-hosting this session with me. And please state your questions in the chat, and then we will ask the questions accordingly. And we have now our first speaker, Botond Cseh, which is PhD and is now working at MSD as a marketing campaign manager. And yeah, I'm very happy that we have you here, and the stage is yours.
So thank you very much for the introduction and also for the invitation to be part of this this nice career event. So yeah, I would share the experiences that I went through basically since and even before leaving academia. And this session or this event is called Life Beyond Academia. So my title is like Graduating from Academia, or the next chapters of uncertainties or continuous learning. And this is an image which is basically Yves Klein, who was a modern artist in the 50s in Nice, France. And it's called Jump into the Void. So basically you see like it's a painful landing that he's going to make. But yeah, I believe that this is you leaving academia. So it's necessary to happen. It's going to be painful maybe for some, but it's worth it. So also for a reminder, like the question is, why do we want to leave, or why do we need to leave academia? And some of these figures might be already outdated, but maybe it's good for a reminder that, as you can see, from the 80s until 2011, the cumulative amount of PhDs awarded, this you see in blue, and then the faculty positions that are basically not matching up these numbers. So this creates obviously a big conflict, like what do we do with all these PhDs? And when we also have a look at this one, is also already 10 years old from the Royal Society. You need, basically this figure tells us that you need to feed 200 PhD students in the system to get one professorship. So that again strengthens basically the notion that there's this big push in the system to do something with these careers. And when we consider the pyramid that we need to climb, so you start out being no one, of course, just joking, but then you go through the ladder, becoming a bachelor, master, PhD, postdoc, tenure track, and obviously a PI or terminator in the end. By the time we go through this ladder, actually, the real bottleneck comes around the postdoc level. And then you realize like, okay, what have I done in the past 5-10 years? And what else is there that I need to take care of? But maybe some of you are more conscious even earlier. So you might think of an exit plan already at master's or at the PhD level. And it's good to think ahead, like you don't end up like this guy in like a job interview. It looks like in 2050, like says runs in our family. My father and grandfather are also working as postdocs. So basically to avoid this, I mean, we're clever people. We've been basically studying so far in our lives. We, of course, always have a look at like, there must be another way. It's just not good that we just fall off the cliff and we fall on our faces, but that we need to have like a better choice. And how confident are we in taking either the academic or the non-academic way? Some of these are, so these results are basically coming from a study that we have done, and basically we were ready with it by 2018, but it started already in 2016, which was having postdocs in the focus. But basically you can see the confidence how postdocs are judging an academic career to be fit for them, broken down by gender, and in comparison, non-academic careers. So there's not much difference between the two, but maybe the commonality in the two is that the confidence is not so high that actually, and as you can see, some of the people are really scoring low as well, that they judge academic career is for them. And the same goes actually for the non-academic ones. So when I look at my own example, like how did I go up or down or somewhere from the pyramid? Basically, I was at the postdoctoral level, and at 2015 or so, or maybe a bit later, I tried really hard in academia. Basically, I gathered all my contacts, my network in Vienna, that I arranged like to have as many talks as possible. And you see, I even made a poster. It was called the Botond on Tour. Very funny. So it was like the project I was working on, the roles of raffinate angiogenesis. And then basically I went to all these institutes, like whatever I could get my hands on. But I did not get so many emails afterwards, like, "Herr Professor Cseh, please come to us." So what did I do? Basically, I was shooting on anything that was moving. So in the end, I was counting. I had roughly 50 applications, and it's not a success story. I got one interview, and I failed that interview. So what helped in the end? I think it was really useful for me that I basically did something which was more than just pipetting. So I became a postdoctoral representative, and I was going to faculty meetings. I was taking part in different negotiations for budget, trying to organize things like events like this one, for instance. This was very useful, not only just growing my network, but even picking up vocabulary on different things. Then the before mentioned postdoc project, basically just building on the bad, or let's say sad experiences of scientists. One day I just took the initiative and I wrote to the Minister of Science here in Austria. Back then it was Takeda. Like something we need to do about science careers. Of course, nothing happened. Then I wrote to a couple of more subcommittees and so on. And 1 month later, someone called me in the lab between two experiments, like, "Hey, Dr. Cseh, could you come to the ministry? We're interested in your thoughts. Like, what would you like to propose?" And long story short, with the help of a former managing director also of MFBL, Harald Hochreiter, who's a management consultant now, and mostly driven also by Steph Bannister, so another postdoc, and myself, we created a 120-page long document that we gave to the ministry and also some of the other financing partners, with concrete measures like what could be done to make it better, the careers in science. In the end, they did not publish it. And besides having a few figures for ourselves, it also helped, I think, to secure funding for the Ludwig Boltzmann Gesellschaft's Career Center, and which is also obviously a big win for everyone. So all of this helped me to network. I also took one coaching session. Basically, after 50 minutes, the coach just stopped me and said, like, "Hey, I don't think you want to continue in academia." And that really helped me to focus my efforts like somewhere else. I also took part, it was organized by the Ludwig Boltzmann Gesellschaft, Laboratory of Open Innovation in Science. And this was like, for me, a really good crash course on like the basics of business for like a scientist myself. And here again, I was picking up terms and vocabularies and whatnot, and also increasing my network all along this curriculum. I was also part of my brother-in-law's unique design t-shirt company, where I was advising him on marketing and creative part. And eventually, that landed me a consultancy job. So this was innovation consulting, and mostly using the experiences that is listed on the screen and the network basically that I had. After a long and difficult birth, basically I landed this job. But then I had a reality check. So the job was really cool, but I earned less as a postdoc. I was really behind compared to the others. Language was still an issue. I was lacking basic business knowledge. And overall, I wasn't happy. So I thought, like, what to do now? So I decided to focus on project that I liked, so which was health and science related projects. I focused really to try to systematically learn about end user needs, journeys. I focused also on learning project management, because I think the ones that we are doing in academia is not really project management. It's a different version of that. I focused on innovation itself, focused a lot on digital. Now, in light of COVID, of course, this seems obvious, but back then it was not the only driver for innovation. And for instance, I organized on my own account an ideation and prototyping workshop where I invited many of my friends. So not only life scientists, but engineers, physicists, I don't know, human rights lawyer, etc. And actually, one of the ideas I pushed through a startup accelerator from GE Healthcare. So again, all of this gave me like really new set of skills and maybe new set of like mindset to think about the next step. So how to find the next step? Basically, what I thought to do is to pick the interest in my past and back then at that present, add the methodologies from the past and present, and match these what is on offer on the market. And hallelujah, that's how I got to the marketing manager role where I'm at currently. So I thought I would also just quickly introduce really basics for what is marketing. You have a recipient and you have a message that you want to get through. So the important things to consider here is like, what is the content? What is the context? And which channels are you able to reach the recipient? So in marketing, everybody says like content is king. So basically this defines already like, if you have something great to say to a person, of course, the person will be interested. But what also matters is the context, which is the queen. So like a glass of water, maybe in an English pub, is not as relevant as in the desert. So the context also means a lot. Similarly, also the channel. Some people just read, their standard in the morning. Some people just scroll on Facebook. Then some others like to be called. Many of them, they don't like to be called. They just want to read an email whenever they want. So this is basically very much broken down in simple terms, the work of marketing that I am currently doing. So, but looking back, all of it, like, how could you do this thing actually a bit more consciously to plan for it? So I think it's really important that you need to take time for your career. So it seems like a big ask, but please try to fit in 1 or 2 hours each week to consider your career and the perspectives that you have for that. And I think it's fair, like when you give 60, even 70 hours sometimes of your week for pipetting, that you have a bit of conscious about the future and you think about this. This you have to take figuratively, like how far are you from your bench? This means like, are you more comfortable sitting on your computer and looking into the future and reading and doing research about stuff? Do you like the intellectual part more, or actually do you like pipetting and you like the practical part of it? Because this could also define like where to go, to stay in academia or not, or even if you stay, where you stay or where you go. When you leave academia, where to go. It's good if you could identify the elements that you like in the current role, and then you look for jobs that have at least a few of those. You can fill in the gaps with online courses, example, LinkedIn, but Udacity or whatever. And I find it that it's really important to be honest, at least with yourself, like what you are wishing for. You should network, but also with the direction and use your network. If you don't speak German, learn German. If you're a native speaker, I don't know, learn Hungarian or another language. It's also useful to get a few coaching sessions because it helps to clarify things. So not a good coach is not going to tell you should do this or that, but they're going to help you to crystallize basically maybe the paths that you would like to take. And you need to be reasonable because sometimes there's a price to pay. And especially important that you should never stop believing. Just go through with it if you decide on something that you like. I would also like to go back again to the report that we assembled, so the postdoc forum Austria report in 2018, because here you could see where the postdocs, so roughly 80 postdocs, gave their views, like what are the important elements that could help to plan their next career move. And you can see that career fairs, job fairs, CV checks, and so on are very important as well. But what most postdocs were thinking, that individual career coaching counseling is very important, or more friends that are collecting first-hand experience that I was
Botond, your email is, your internet is crashing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you
maybe
see me now?
Now we can hear you and see you again. Maybe you can start again at the top of this chart, what the people find important, because then you work away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for this information. So sorry about that. I hope that the internet stays stable. So basically, I just wanted to finish up with this chart because this is coming from a good number of like 80 postdocs that they thought like, what are the important steps to take or how to plan more wisely the career. And as you can see that like individual coaching, counseling, or a real support from the supervisor, networking, collecting first experiences, more time to research actually career options or acquiring hard and soft skills, etc. These are basically the most important things that they thought like that would help them to move to the next step. So maybe it's also like good information for you, like how you should tackle your next move. And I think it's important you start building your safety net today because it might be still like a painful thing, but you know, if you have a safety net, you might still get wet, but it's less painful in the end. And so this QR code, if you use your mobile, leads to my LinkedIn page. Don't be a stranger. You can drop me a line. But I have small kids and I will answer the first 5 emails only. But of course, I'm joking. Yeah, so thank you for your attention. And I'm happy to take questions. I'm sorry if there were these issues with the connection. I hope you could still get some information out of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Botond. That was very, very nice and very informative and very nicely illustrated. And I have the first question regarding the 50 applications you wrote from Anela Tosevska. Were they all for faculty positions or were they bound to Vienna? Can you maybe say that? And additionally, how long did you do your postdoc then in the end? How long were you a postdoc?
Yes, so basically, valid question. I was focusing mostly on Vienna because I already had my first daughter and also my wife working here in Vienna as a scientist. So this personal aspect already sort of defined where I'm looking at. And that's why like I was focusing on Vienna alone. So these 50 applications were, but not only in academia, and actually to be honest, more outside of academia, but still I did not manage to get too many things out of it back then. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
How long were you a postdoc?
How long was I a postdoc? It was almost 6 years, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And would you now say for postdocs which want to give it a try, so to say, because you know there are some positions which can be acquired, and then there are also positions like a senior lecturer or senior postdoc. It's not just the professorship. Would you say that that the postdoc can also give you certain benefits in terms of a future application? Because we had a talk a few weeks ago where the guy said that problem-solving skills, self-motivation, etc., is really a benefit the postdoc applicants bring, and they are searching for them actually.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends like how your PhD is, because in my last lab where I worked, basically, I think PhD students were like almost postdocs, or there was almost literally no difference between them. So I guess it depends on like the environment where you're at. If you consider also one other aspect, and I know that people don't like to talk about that in academia, is the financial part. The longer you stay in academia, the overall lifetime earnings that you have, it can be measured in millions of dollars. So basically, if you compare someone leaving after master's degree and leaving after 2 rounds of postdocs, you have major differences in lifetime earnings. So basically, academic career, it is recommended for people who will make it in academia. But as we know, the bottleneck is really, really tight. So it's not a reality for most of us.
Yeah.
So basically, if you think that academia is not for you, and you're a master's student considering to do a PhD or not to do a PhD, but you are really certain that you don't want to do it, don't do it for the degree. Maybe here in Austria, the doctor is something of a big thing, but other than that, it is basically, I mean, okay, do it for having fun or traveling the world or getting to know other cultures and so on. Live the life of a scientist. Do it for a while if you want, but be conscious of the time that you lose actually with this as well. And like myself, also in my consulting role, I had projects where I was the junior on the project and someone with a bachelor was the project lead. So that's reality. So when you leave academia, if you don't have like a really specific knowledge that someone is, in a dire need of that, then you will still, your entry point is somewhere at the fresh graduate university level, and you still have to climb the ladder. And actually, like when you leave academia, again, on the financial part, I read somewhere that you need 9 years to close the gap between someone who, started out at 23 at the same place where I started out at 32 or something like that. Yeah. There's a really good book. It's called How Economy Shapes Science. And there's a lot of truth written in there if you want to read something.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a nice recommendation. We can put it also on the homepage for anyone which was not able to listen today. I think that was the questions we had. If there are any questions coming in, you all gave also the possibility to write you an email, which is quite nice. And with this, also to keep the time in check, I would then...
Felix, we have another question.
I have another question. Now it's coming in now.
Neha.
Genau. Also from Neha, no affiliation. Please add your affiliation. Thank you. I wanted to know if any specific courses you did in marketing. What do you think about mentioning project management in your CV when coming after PhD? I think it's a valuable question. Maybe, Botond, you can say something.
Yeah, so I did not do any specific course actually on marketing. For me, the connection to marketing was coming from the consultancy role, where basically some of the projects were providing knowledge for marketing and end user benefits. A lot of those things were commonalities that were really useful in a marketing role. And second question, I'm sorry. What was the last part?
If you should mention your
project
CV
management.
Project management, I think it's a master.
Yes, so I would say that it's almost like if you're uncertain where to go to project management, but now it's really trendy. All the agile methodologies, like if you know Scrum or Six Sigma or anything like this, of course, this is a benefit to mention on your CV.
Okay, and now another question which came in. How helpful are regarding courses? Okay. Do you have experience with courses like from Coursera or LinkedIn?
Yes. So basically, that's also like if you have a chance to pay if you can afford to pay the professional version of LinkedIn, I think it's really useful because you not only get, like insights, how many people from which segment did apply for a particular job, but it also gives you access to all the materials on LinkedIn Learning. And I think basically you find everything there. You can also get, of course, a certificate, but I think these MOOCs, like these online courses, are good for getting to know a bit the basics of something. And as I said, learning the vocabulary, knowing like how to speak to someone, how to speak maybe with a recruiter, and to have a good knowledge, a good feeling at least, how it might be. If the recruiter and the hiring manager gives you a leap of faith and sees like you're a really good learner and fast learner, they will anyway give you this trust, and then you will have a good chance to actually internalize all the needed properties. But Coursera is also good. Udacity is good. Many of these things are very good. And you can also listen, on the bus or U-Bahn or whatever, just keep it in your ear and you can pick up a lot of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much. That's very valuable.
Sure.
Then I now hand over the mic to Petra Cech, which was project manager at Novartis. And now she's working at PRA Health. And we are also very happy that you have time for us, and I'm eager to listen to your talk.
Hello, I'm glad to have you on the call. And I want to share with you now my presentation. I hope you can see. You can see it?
Yes, wonderful.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, so I talk about my life to clinical trial management, and I want to give you some quite overview. Well, what you could do in some months when you probably have your master or your PhD in your pocket, how you get the way to industry, and how I did it. So, what gets the wetter? So what to expect? I want to give you some tips and tricks how and where to start, maybe some entry jobs for scientists, my pathway, what I did, and how I managed my switches. And as Botond already said, maybe additional capabilities which industry seeks for and would be helpful if you could add up these in your CV. And some strategies how to think outside the box, not to have so many other colleagues who want to have the same job you want to have. So where to start? Start where you are. This is probably the best advice I can give you. Activate your network. Tell your friends and tell your study mates about your wishes, where you want to go, what you expect, what you think like that would be a nice position where I'd like to jump in. Tell everybody about your wishes, your ideas, and your study mates. But the good thing is follow your own path, because I did not always follow this advice. So I can really tell you, follow your own path, get yourself clear what you want, where you're good in, or about your strength, and then you probably find the right thing for you. The next thing is support each other. Career path is never a straight line. You probably have to go rounds and loops and detours. So it's important if you support each other. Maybe you have study mates and he or she knows somebody who is working in a big company already, somebody in at the big player, and he or she knows, well, there's a job, he or she is interested in this and that, he and she knows details about this job, but you are not interested in this job. But you could pass on this job to somebody else who is interested. You can say, well, it's not so, I'm not so much interested in this job, but maybe you could do a good job here. So keep yourself connected and support each other, because you want to win the game probably not on your own. It's always good, like a little help from your friends. So how to start? What I did in my beginning when I graduated, I read a lot of job titles and job descriptions. That helped me to get a feeling for the jobs outside, because I had no clue after my academia what are the jobs called and what are they for. And it needed me to get an overview about entry jobs in industry and what capabilities are needed to do this job. So most of the job titles and descriptions are in English, and you have to really, well, get yourself familiarized with this jargon in industry to talk with the people in the right way and to get understood. My next thing is get your profile on Xing and LinkedIn really boosted, because it really helped, and it really helped me once to get a job. So activate your job platforms, put your CV in, put everything in you can do to present yourself, be active, show that you are interested, and do something to be present. So what are common entry positions in industry? I listed here up some as an example. You could probably more do like as when you are a master. So for example, a research, which is when you work in the laboratory, or clinical research associate, which is called a CRA or a CTA. I put you, for example, an job description on the right side. So just to get a feeling what is needed and how you can already start to get yourself familiarized with the terms in industry, what you need to know. Or if you want to not really work in industry, but let's say in hospitals, it's a good starter if you work as a study coordinator or a study nurse, which are also a helping hand if you do clinical trials. If you have good luck, you can also start as a marketing assistant or a regulatory assistant. And if you have a PhD, you probably gonna start as medical scientific liaison, where you go out into the field and have a lot of talks and a lot of traveling, where you get connected with the key opinion leaders, with the medicines and the physicians in your field, like say for oncology or physiology, neurology, whatever field you are working in then. I give you now an example of my pathway and how I managed my switches. So I graduated in 2007 in biology, in anthropology, and I did my diploma thesis at the Cancer Research Center in Borschgegasse, which belongs to the General Hospital in Vienna. And afterwards, I did something that probably a lot of you think that would be useful. I started with an international PhD program in Ulm, as I thought like it's very connecting to what I did first in my master degree. And everybody from my laboratory was also starting a PhD. So I thought like, I also have to do that. I have to follow the crowd and have to do everything that the others does. But after a very short time, I realized this is not my way, and I don't want to keep on going 3 or 4 years more in the laboratory. In this way, I'd like to go to industry and have it more like, well, let's say it in an organized way, and I broke this up. And I think this also took me kind of, it was not a very nice or smooth decision to break up a PhD, because I thought like I have to do it, and then there was a great vacuum what to do next. So what to do next? I really focused on myself and thought like where I'd like to go, which are the big players in industry which are working on an topic, or which have products in the pipeline which interests me really. So I identified them, and then I thought to myself, where can I connect with them? And what I did next was I went to a career fair. I looked up where the next career fair is and where they have a booth. And actually it was Baxter, and I wanted to work with Baxter. And I went there with my CV. And the big chance of a career fair is that you see the people there in live, and you can see their body language, you can hear their voices, see their faces, and see, do you like them? Do you get a feeling like, could you imagine to work there? Does it sound interesting? And you can really get a good feeling about, could you imagine to work there? Is that something for you? So that's what I did at the career fair. And 10 days later, I was invited for an interview as a research associate, because the things that I learned at the PhD program, like for transfections, were useful in the next position as a research associate at Baxter, at the laboratory for molecular vaccines in Ott an der Donau. So this is near Vienna, and this is a laboratory probably everybody knows. Baxter got then sold to Takeda and split up to Pfizer, Shire, and so on. But in these times I started at Baxter, and it was a good first jump into industry. But after 9 months, I realized I actually want to do something more communicative. I want to go out of laboratory, and the big question is where to go then, and what are my other chances I could take on. So I again read some job descriptions, and I thought like I'd like to work as a project manager. I thought like I'm good at organizing, I'm good at talking, I'm good with people, and that's something that would really suit me. So what needs to be done that I can work as a project manager? And that probably as a project manager in trial management. And there it said, as a prerequisite, you probably need 3 years as a CRA, as a clinical research associate position. So I thought like, okay, I need a CRA position first. So how did I get the CRA position? I had a profile on Sing, which was 2010. So probably now I would more recommend on LinkedIn, but Sing probably is also in the DACH region very, very interested. So I put there in the seeking profile, I'm looking for a CRA position, and somebody went on my profile on Sing, and then I could see that somebody went on my profile, and I went on his profile and I saw, okay, this person is looking for a CRA. So I went on the homepage, and there I saw a CRA position was open, and I applied for the CRA position. I was invited, and then I got a job as a CRA. So it's always good also to think outside the box and go different ways, not only to, well, focus on jobs that are posted on traditional job platforms, but also go different ways and go to the companies you want to work for. That's my advice actually for you. So there I started this business from scratch, how to work in a clinical research organization. That is an organization that staffs people for clinical management, like clinical trials. You hear it in news every day, like the COVID-19 vaccines, or for cancer research, whatever. There are a lot of studies outside from the big companies who try to reinvent medicine and to get new medicines out for the people. So it's a good grounded entry job to get a lot of terms and how the industry is working before you probably can move on. So the next step after 3 years was I wanted to take on more responsibility, and I wanted to broaden my experiences, and I wanted to move on as a project manager. This was not so easy, as it was a small CRO and there were no positions open as a project manager. So how to move on? The next thing. I had a good relationship with the sponsors, which are the big players who finance the trial. They're called sponsors. And I had a good relationship with my project manager there. And we talked about the situation in their company. And then suddenly it was their situation that their project manager left quite quickly. And they had an open position as a junior project manager. And as they knew me from my position as a CRA, they asked my head of my CRO if I could come to them as a contractor, as a junior project manager. So this was my next step at a biotech at a Virus in Vienna. And this was a global position in 6 countries, and it's where I could really have more responsibility. I had to work also on contracting. I could read monitoring reports, so I could read and review reports that were written normally by CRAs, so had more responsibility. It's important to get have an overview if you're working with 27 different sites, different hospitals in different countries, and you have to be, of course, very diplomatic and organized if you work with different countries. There's another mentality, so it's a lot to learn for yourself, how to formalize emails, how you write something. Communication is very important. So this was a quite great challenge. And the idea was to get a fixed contract there. Unfortunately, the project did not work so much. So I had also a kind of a loop there. And you also have to keep in mind that it's not always, as I said, a straight line. Sometimes you have to go through dry periods and start over again. So what I did again was I activated my network. I told everybody, my friends, my study mates, I'd like to move on as a project manager. I don't want to go back as a CRA. I want to move. I want to grow. If you see something, a position, if you hear something, please contact me. If you have any contacts, please give them my number. It would be great if I could work as a clinical project manager. I think that's really what I want and I'm strong in. And that really helped, because there was a friend of mine and she saw a job posting as a clinical project manager, which I did not see, which was already online since 1 or 2 weeks, and sometimes it can go really fast. So within 1 or 2 weeks, sometimes jobs are really closed. So what I did was I took a phone call and I phoned there. That's my next advice. Don't always write something. Don't apply always in writing. Take a chance to use your voice, use your personality, use your emotions to convince your people out of your emotion and that you're willing for this job. So that's what I did. And then I was invited for this job. And it was for CRO Assign, and they were searching for a project manager for Novartis. So I was contracted over this CRO for this clinical research organization, and I was office-based 4.5 years at Novartis in Vienna as a clinical project manager. So this was a good challenge where you can work as on oncology and hematology for clinical studies from phase 1 to 3. And you have to do everything like a setup. You have to work in a matrix phase. You have to keep yourself organized. You have to know a lot about dossiers, detailed, but also keep the overview. So this is a lot of project management, like project management skills are and plus that could be help you to stick out of the crowd probably. And what else? After 4.5 years, I wanted to move on. I wanted to work more strategic than operational, and so I tried again to have referrals, because your colleagues already know how you're working, what are your strengths, they can recommend you. They, with the years, you get better in what you do, so the people know you and they can recommend you to headhunters. You get calls from headhunters and you can say, okay, I'm interested in this and that. And if your study mates get calls, you can say, I can recommend you this person. So this is my really good advice for you. Keep your network fluid. And my last position, I was now in before since beginning of November in maternity leave, was a global MAP manager. So MAPs are early access managed programs, like medicines which are not owned already on the market, but shortly before. And I was working there also for contract firm, like PRA, which I'm now, and I did the map for the biotech Vertex in UK. So it's very important that you broaden your network, that you have good English, skills, not a baby brain like me now. And you also have to motivate yourself, and you have to keep your humor and move on, and also have this endurance to move through dry periods. So to sum it up, what really helped me through my CV is also to add up capabilities. What I did during my life so far is I can recommend you to gain some project management capabilities. A good step is like to do the exam in level D. Get yourself presentation skills. You always have to present yourself, have to present results to stakeholders in the industry. You have to work in teams and alone. So it's probably best that you can really show you're a team player, and you are able of managing conflict. You're interested in personality development. What I did when I first started, I did a lot of courses at IFS. So this is a platform for student courses, and they were very cheap as a student. And I did some courses just to present myself, to get some feedback on how to talk, how to present results. Storytelling is very important, like storytelling with data, to get the crowd motivated and not to sleep away. So this is really good advice I can give you, to also work on your soft skills, to fit into a team, and to see that you want to grow. And what else? Like GCP is important. It's called Good Clinical Practice. You can already Google that and get yourself familiarized with the terms. And there's also the possibility, if you're interested in clinical management, you can already do a master degree in 4 semesters on the Medical University in Vienna. So here, just very brief, my summary recommendations. Focus on your target. Don't follow the crowd, but think of where you're good in, where you want to go, which are the big players you're interested in, or find your niche, find your small little company where you can broaden your profile and not be a specialist like in the big companies. So what I did, I read some advice books from Hess and Schrader. I have this at home. So like if you're a beginner from academia, it really helped me. If you don't have the experience, how to show you that you're motivated. And if you don't have the experience, you have at least a good CV to present. Go to career fairs. Go to your university. They mostly have departments where they help you with recruiting, with your CV. Let them check you. And I listed up the big players. If you go here to the Pharmic side, this is the side of the industry group where most of the players are in. So you can find them. They're listed up, and go to their career side. Get yourself connected. Get yourself familiarized. What are the jobs out there? What are their online presentation, how you think like, I think that could be my company I'd like to work for, or do you think like, no, I'm totally not interested in this. So don't do anything, do something that really fits for you. And as I said, go to job fairs. It really helps to present yourself in person, train this kind of interviews, be present, dare yourself to show you. And as I said, like go to Uniport. That's what I did in the beginning. Listen to experts. Listen to the ones who help you with recruiting. What are the requirements outside now? What is changing? What are the requirements in industry? It's a fast-paced industry, and they're changing things so quickly. So you really have to be on the spot to be to be requested by industry. That's what I really can tell you. And what I always say is, luck is planning that others don't see. So keep yourself focused and never give up before you don't have the job you really want.
Thank you very, very much for this very inspiring talk, a very positive talk. We're very happy to have you here, and we have now already the second book suggestion. It's also very nice. And yeah, regarding the career fair, I want to comment that we also have a career fair in adjunction to the ÖGMBT meeting. It's always in parallel, the career fair open, and the companies are very happy to have visitors there. You can also arrange a one-to-one chat if you want to get some additional information. And it's really a big benefit we have for the ÖGMBT members. Just that you know it now. I have two questions. We have to answer them very fast because we're a little bit over time. And one is regarding the networking. Yeah, what would you suggest to do now in this pandemic crisis time regarding networking? Because networking needs some physical contact somehow, but as we see here, it also somehow functions with these online formats. I think we're also adapting quite fast. But what would you suggest now to do in the COVID time in terms of networking? And the second question is, how important is German? Yeah, how important are German skills, and which positions can be addressed, so to say, or can be acquired with less German skills needed?
Okay, I would say for the first question, I would recommend to do Zoom meetings. I mean, you can never replace personal contact, but the second thing is to have at least some video, and you have some voice. You see the personality, you see the emotion, and you see face, mimic. That's important. So get yourself connected with your mates, and if you see any job posting, get yourself call with HR. Try to dial through. Sometimes it's like you don't have the information. Like you get a call with HR and they say, okay, this position is already in the final stage. You won't probably get it, but in 2 weeks or in a month, there's going to be a new position. So you know more when you talk with people. That's what I always say. Don't do so much on writing, but try to be more communicative and try really to use the internet and Zoom meetings, video calls, MS Teams, whatever, to get connected and see also the emotion and the voice. And the second thing is I really recommend German, but probably it's not so important if you try to step in as a clinical trial assistant, where just you have to learn German probably in this position, because I mean if you go outside to doctors, or you have to write emails to physicians, they probably have to be written in German. I mean, at least in Austria, a lot of documentation could be sent in English. That's okay, but if you have communication to the ethics committee, it's in German. So it's hard to say actually.
Yeah.
But as a clinical trial assistant, yeah, that's probably the only position I could really recommend from my side.
Okay, I think then we have cleared out any open questions. And again, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to listen to you. And yeah, then we continue with Takeda. I think Takeda is the biggest pharma company in Austria. And we have two people from Takeda. One is Cristina Espino and the other one is Petra Cech. One is R&D Department employee and the other one is a scientist on virology vectors.
Hi there. Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, thanks a lot for having us. maybe we could start with a short introduction. Cristina, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can do. Thank you very much. So my name is Cristina Espino. I'm a talent acquisition partner at Takeda. Basically, what I do there is there are dedicated business units that I support when it comes to finding new talents for their teams. I'm one member of a bigger team of talent acquisition partners within the company. It's a group of 8 people who are covering all vacancies within Vienna, but also Ort an der Donau. But more information about how we work together, I will share with you later on. Otherwise, I joined Takeda just last year, so I've gone through the recruitment process myself fairly recently. So I'm excited to share with you some insights later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Cristina. So my name is Charles. I have a background in molecular biology and basic research. So that's kind of the connection to you guys out there. And during the last 2 years, I went to the trainee program of Takeda, which is focused on project management as well as leadership. And I just recently started out in my first position after the trainee program as the manufacturing leader for the production of recombinant viral vectors for advanced cell therapies. I still can't share my screen. So Cristina, could I please ask you to share my presentation?
1 second, I will try, just 1 second.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay.
Okay, I can't see it.
Judge, I also made you to a co-host that works now.
Oh, for me it's disabled.
Now it works.
Okay.
I think now it should work. Let's try. Thailand. Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yes,
perfect.
It works. Excellent.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. So first of all, let us start a little bit with a general introduction about Takeda, about our company, and afterwards I will tell you a little bit more about my roads to Takeda, so how I applied, how my career looked so far, and then Cristina will take over with some very useful tips and tricks about for application and so on. Good. So as you can see here already, we have many different sites in Austria. Actually, we are the biggest pharma employer in Austria. I think more than 4,000 jobs. Is that right, Cristina? So there are really a lot of different job opportunities for you at Takeda. So Takeda has a very long history, almost 240 years. So it's among the oldest pharma companies worldwide. And the company was founded actually in the 18th century by Kobe Takeda, who was selling herbal medicines back then. I think he would be surprised if he would see the company now, 240 years later, as one of the 10 biggest pharma companies worldwide. And I think what was always important for Takeda and still is the patient. So we are really putting the patient into the center of everything we are doing, and into the everyday decisions in the company. I think that really did not change during these last 240 years. In contrast to maybe the Western pharma companies, Takeda very much relies on these traditional values such as integrity, fairness, honesty, and perseverance. And all the important business decisions are based upon our values, which is first of all the patient, then building trust with society, reinforcing our reputation, and last, developing the business. So here it's also very important to follow this order here. So the patient comes first. So Takeda is also very much an R&D driven company, although most of the R&D efforts are focused in Massachusetts, the Boston area. So most of the R&D is done in the oncology sector, gastroenterology, rare diseases, neuroscience, plasma-derived therapies, and also vaccines. So in Austria, we actually do not offer R&D jobs anymore. So they all went to the Boston area. But nevertheless, as you will see, there are many very important job opportunities apart from the R&D business. So here's an overview about the sites from Takeda in Austria. So the major site is located in Vienna, which is really focused on the plasma business. Here we have, I think, nine sites. Is that right? It's so many.
Yeah, it's so many.
It's so many. So it's also the biggest site, also with a long history of more than 65 years. We went through a couple of name changes. So from Immuno AG to Baxter, Baxalta, Shire, as Petra already mentioned it. And Vienna is very much focused on the manufacturing of plasma-derived products. In Vienna, the whole manufacturing takes place from end to end. So it begins with the plasma analytics, fractionation, purification, formulation, fill finishing. And apart from that, we have also process development, analytical development, which is not so far from R&D, I would say, and also a global pathogen safety lab, where the Takeda COVID therapy was actually developed. In Orts, where I am sitting right now, we have also many very interesting therapies which are manufactured. So first of all, we have the gene therapy, then biologics, and now I'm also putting up with my colleagues the manufacturing for the recombinant viruses for the cell therapy. Further in Ort, we have also process development, analytical development, and a global quality control network lab. And we also have the site in Linz, where they are focused on various different biologics. And here in blue, you can see our plasma centers, which kind of fuel the plant in Vienna mainly. We have also a lot of plasma centers in Czech Republic and in Hungary. So, as I told you, there are many different opportunities at Takeda. So also apart from the research and development, which most of you guys most likely have in mind when thinking about the industry. So we also have interesting opportunities at technical services, where we also seek for scientists at manufacturing, formulation, drug development. So really interesting stuff. There are also interesting opportunities in the engineering sector. For example, the equipment and process validation, where plans and studies are developed and analyzed for the validation qualification of manufacturing processes and of equipment. We have a large sector here for the process development and analytical development, which also kind of similar to the R&D job, but it's more about developing analytical methods, developing processes for the manufacturing. Most of you most likely know the quality control, where all the samples are analyzed from the manufacturing. But I think that most of you are not very familiar with the everyday processes at the pharma manufacturing. So here are just some very interesting examples of jobs, such as the GMP officer who patrols the manufacturing and looks for things which could be improved in the plant. We have process experts who are responsible for the whole processes in the manufacturing, and also the owners of these processes. We have Kappa investigators who are a little bit like detectives and working on deviations if they occur in the manufacturing process, and change control experts who are managing the workflow behind the exchange of equipment, changing processes, and so on. So we have many job opportunities out there which are still free now, so you can have a look at takedajobs.com. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. And then I will switch to my way to Takeda. So what was my journey here? So I was doing my PhD, I think in the 4th or 5th year, and kind of before I could finish my PhD thesis, things changed a little bit, and I really had to look for other opportunities urgently. A book that really helped me a lot was a Next Generation PhD, which I can recommend you. It's about career paths in science and outside of science, and I think one of the most important things is to think about for yourself, is to know what you want to do after academia and what the possibilities are. So also the colleagues here recommended some other books which are really interesting and helpful for that. And as soon as you know what you want, you can apply for those jobs. In my case, I applied for this operations trainee job. When applying for jobs, I think you should really make up your mind and think about the skills and talents which you have. Also skills and talents which you develop during your time at academia, for example, analytical thinking, organization, planning, communication. So that's all skills which I'm pretty sure that you're all very good at. Make sure that you point those out in your application. So I sent in my application to Takeda, and then I was waiting for like 2 or 3 months. In my case, it took really a long time, and then I found an email in the spam folder where a lady from recruiting asked me whether I'm still interested in the job. So of course I immediately answered. Then I received a phone call. Yeah, this was really a very, very interesting and easygoing phone call, I would say. She asked me about my motivation, about my willingness to leave academia, and spontaneously she asked me whether I could come in the next morning for an interview. So that was a little bit shocking for me back then, because I'm a person who prefers to prepare very well for interviews. So I had no time at all to do that. But the interview was more about my personality, about my interest, about my expectations for the job. So preparation was not necessary at all. And then in a second round, I was invited for a hearing where I prepared a little presentation about myself, and I also received questions from the audience. So in my case, the audience were like 10 people, some people from HR and also managers. So I will tell you a little bit about the trainee program which I went through. So this is kind of a program built up upon various rotations in different plants and functions. I started off as a project manager in the purification plant, where I led a technical project focused on temperature sensors. Then I moved on to BioLife European operations, which is the plasma part, the plasma sourcing part of Takeda. Here I led an international integration project when we bought those many centers in Czech Republic and in Hungary. So I also traveled a lot. I visited all the centers, and I led this project about archiving compliance, which was also very interesting. For a short time, I was in ORT at the HR department, where I supported various projects. And my last rotation was a leadership rotation, where I was the leader of 15 direct reports in the manufacturing support area of compliance and data management, and also GMP improvement. Yeah, beside these rotations, we trainees also supported other events, such as the organization of the Christmas party, Family Day. We also designed a new visitor area for a plant. And yeah, I'm also, as you can see, supporting HR a little bit. And we have also many interesting Takeda resource group where we support different groups of people in the company. Yeah, and now after the program, I applied for a job as a lead for manufacturing of recombinant viral vectors. I started in October here. We will manufacture here the drug substances for innovative cell therapies. It's a CAR-NK cell therapy, and right now we are ramping up the site, finishing the building. We're right now in the tech transfer phase, hiring, and so on. So we're very busy. Okay, so far from my side. Cristina, should we continue with your part before we go to the Q&A? Okay.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, let me try to share my screen. And I hope you can see.
Yes, it works.
Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you again, Jess. Hi again. So as you know, my name is Cristina. I started last year, as you know, I mentioned it already. So I'm fairly new within the team, within talent acquisition. What I would like to do today, I know it's very late, so I really appreciate that you're still here listening to our presentation. What I would like to do today is share with you some insights into recruiting from the perspective of a talent acquisition person. I think that's good. I will try to go through the presentation quickly so that we will still have some time for exchanges and also questions that you might have. So basically right now or today, I will go through the different components of an application, and I'm sure you already are familiar with. So a lot of things will be repetition for you. Let me just proceed to the next screen. So a lot of these will be repetitions, how to make your CV, what is a cover letter, what is the difference between the cover letter and the CV, what to expect from an interview, how the Takeda recruitment process actually looks like, and then we will wrap things up with all the, the learnings from the next couple of minutes that I will share with you. So there will be plenty of information that you will already know, but take those information that are new for you, perhaps for your next application. So let's start then, starting with the CV. So the CV is really the focal point of any application. And as a recruiter, this is the first document that I would actually assess. A few months ago, I did a Google checkup. How much time does a recruiter spend assessing a CV? And Google told me 6 seconds. I can tell you it's not like that. So it is quick, yes, but it's definitely more than 6 seconds. But I guess my point here is we are quick when assessing CVs, so you want to make sure that whatever is in your CV, it will be concise and relevant, for the position that you're applying for. So let's just go through quickly the different components. Of course, personal profile, your name is very important. Whether you believe it or not, we do receive CVs without names. So that's why I'm also putting it in there. Contact details as well. Address will be relevant during the employment agreement or, when we are drafting your contract and so on. But for sure, email and telephone number should be included in the CV. The main part of the CV is, of course, the work experience. Name your employer, your title, the date, the tasks and responsibilities. Perhaps reasons for leaving. For example, if you left a company because there was a restructuring of some sort, or for whatever reason. Sometimes candidates do include the reason for leaving, so that's fine. It's up to you if you would like to do that. But definitely in chronological order is helpful for us recruiters, starting with the most recent work experience. Also, of course, in the same principle, put in your education with the name of the institution, the degree, your course, your thesis, and dates. And likewise, skills and languages is very important. So here I would expect things like, software knowledge, if it's C++ or maybe Python or R, or if you have made any certificates during your studies, it would be good to know what type of certificates. Also things like, types of methods that you've been using would be very relevant to know, and the level of expertise or how you gauge your level of expertise will be helpful for the recruiters just to assess, you know how to use Excel, but how good are you at Excel? So is it expert level or is it beginner's level? I think that really helps when assessing CVs. Some optional things, which I personally really enjoy reading through when I assess a CV is the photo, just because it makes it more personal and authentic, I think. And also hobbies or any voluntary work, something that you can share that goes beyond what you're doing, let's say, in your academic life or in your work experience. Because, for example, these hobbies can also be icebreakers for interviews, or maybe you have a common hobby with a hiring manager or with a HR person. So it's always, a basis to further expand conversations when you get in contact with other people. So this is just a summary. You can see in the middle of the slide that I've prepared the 3 C's, I call them. Make your CV concise, meaning for me, maximum 3 pages is enough. So go through your CV, and the trick here to make your CV concise is always to adapt it according to the position that you're applying for. I've seen many generic CVs that are very good. They are very generic. They cover everything that a person has done, but it loses the grip and it loses the relevance compared to a CV that is really adapted to the specific position. Yeah. So just to give you an example. So if you're, for example, applying for a role within the lab, let's say a lab associate position, of course, you would like to highlight your work experience. What type of equipment have you been working with, or what type of methods or analytical methods have you been using when doing your lab work is one thing, but if you apply for a position as project manager, even though your projects are within a lab setup, the tasks that you would be highlighting are just different tasks, So for a project manager position, you would probably most likely highlight, your interfaces, what type of projects were those global projects or local ones, what really was your role within the project management. So with that being said, I think the point here, to make your CV concise, always adapt it. It's good to have a generic CV, but I think you will land or you will increase landing an interview if you can adapt it into the specific role that you're applying for. Okay. And then the next 2 C's are, of course, make it correct and credible. With correct, I just meant check, your spelling, grammar, and things like that. And credible, check, for example, your dates. Does it make sense? Is it really in the chronological order that you wanted it? Just to, because this is, a one-time shot when you apply. So you want to make sure that everything is in place. Okay. I'm sure, or maybe not, but if you have questions about CVs, just write them down and I will just go through the presentation and then we will answer questions later on. Okay, moving on to the cover letter. So what is the difference to the cover letter? The cover letter is basically really the pitch. Okay, so I think a nice cover letter would probably make up, I don't know, 2/3 of a DIN A4 page, not longer. But of course, it's always adaptable. It depends on your situation. But when I say it's your pitch, you just want to answer 4 questions. And the 4 main questions that you want to answer is, why are you the best fit for the specific position that you're applying for? What have been your accomplishments? What are your main strengths? You want to make sure that you do not duplicate any information that you've already mentioned in your CV. And 4th question would be, I would like to work for a specific company for this or that reason. So if you will be able to answer those 4 questions, it's already a very good cover letter, in my opinion. Yeah, because it should just complement your CV and not repeat the information. I always get the question, okay, is a cover letter even relevant nowadays? I would say it depends. Some hiring managers do require it, others do not. But I think if you want to be sure, just include it. Yeah. Okay, moving on to the interview process. So in general, I mean, interviews can always vary from one recruiter to another. Even recruiters inside one company interview, in different ways because it's something very personal. But I think one thing that you can always do is your preparation prior to the interview. So before you go to the interview, you want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with the company, their culture. Petra already mentioned it before. I think it's a very important point, to understand not the details, but the context. So if you're applying for Takeda in Vienna, it's important to understand that it is a plasma-based product that they are, producing in Vienna, as opposed to perhaps another Takeda location. So those are the, let's say, overview or a feeling of in which context the company is working. And also, if you already have an information about the names of people who will interview you, it would be good to do your research, just check on LinkedIn or check on Sing just to see, what type of people you will be talking to, because then, of course, you can also gauge what type of questions they are probably going to ask you. So I think this is really good. Another thing with regards to preparing yourself for the interview is, as you probably know, most of the recruiters will ask you to introduce yourself during the interview process, and this is your pitch. This is something that you can really prepare prior to the actual interview. And if you're able to tell them about your accomplishments, about your strengths, and why they should pick you within, let's say, a range of 5 minutes, for example, then you're already in a really good place. It's your opener for the interview. So I think preparation is really the key for the interview. During the interview, of course, there are also other things that it would be good to be aware of. And then one of those things is really body language, or the way you would also, let's say, maintain your eye contact or be confident without being cocky, for example. Those are crucial things to keep in mind. During the interview, it's also good to avoid negative statements about, your previous employer or your previous manager. Although not everything has been going well for you in the past, what you can do is really highlight the things that went well. This is really about focusing on your skills and your accomplishments. And a good thing to do is by using the STAR method. I don't know if you've heard about it, but let me just go through it very quickly. So STAR means situation, task, action, and result. So for example, if you're being asked, okay, what are your strengths? You could say, I'm a team player, right? But why are you a team player? So what was the situation? What was the task that was given to you? What were your actions and what were the results? Yeah, so this will really help to back up your answer. It's not just, okay, I'm a team player because I'm a team player. You have a situation that will back it up. And then, of course, ask questions. And this is also helpful, already during the preparation phase, because when you go to the website of a company, most likely you will have a lot of questions that you would like to ask, or, that just don't make sense because perhaps you don't have the insights yet. So whatever questions that may come up during the preparation phase while researching through the website or while talking to your friends, perhaps who already work within that company, write them down, and you will have the time to ask those questions during the interview. And also as a tip, wait until being asked to talk about financial particulars. For sure, it's a very important part of the whole process, but most likely you will be asked at some point in time. And if you're being asked, then it's time to also disclose, of course, your expectation in this regard. And last but not least, after the interview, inform the recruiter about changes in your availability proactively, and also do not hesitate to contact your recruiter. For example, if you don't hear about, the progress in your process in particular, you most likely will have the email address or the telephone number. Just give them a call and ask them proactively, why it's taking long, or, how much longer you will need to wait, and so on. I think that is a very welcome step coming from, from applicants. Okay. Now, moving on to the Takeda recruitment. It's very straightforward, to be honest. So Cseh already mentioned his way through the recruitment process. So I will just really summarize everything here. Everything we do is based on our online system. So it's takedajobs.com. I'm not sure right now. I think we have over 70 positions open, spread through Ort an der Donau and also Vienna. And as I mentioned to you before, it's a team of 8 recruiters for Takeda here in Vienna and Ort an der Donau. So if you have several positions that you find interesting, please, by any means, apply to all those positions. It doesn't matter how often you apply. You just want to make sure that your application reaches the recruiter who is actually, recruiting for that particular role. Because, I think that's just a tip that I think you should know. Don't hesitate, applying multiple times to positions, because it will only increase your chances of being invited to an interview. And here again, as Cseh has already mentioned, expect a call from a recruiter, and this call can be very spontaneous. It's true. We will just, grab the phone and then call you and then ask you very general questions, but that's okay. And if that goes well, typically we would invite you to a first interview. And nowadays we do it via MS Teams with a link. And typically this is a call with HR and with a hiring manager. And if that goes well, there will be a second interview. Most likely it will be personal, if possible. It really depends on the guidelines. But, if possible, we, of course, would like to see candidates in person. And then last but not least, there will be formalities, for example, health checks, because we have to make sure that people are allowed. We have a doctor in our company who will check. And then also things like police clearance is something that we formally need to do prior to finalizing a hiring. Okay, summing up, really, Petra already mentioned this also, so I just want to repeat it. I think this is really the main point. Know yourself first. So what are your what do you enjoy doing? What is it that you would like to do in your life? What are your best qualities? What are your strengths? And once you know that, I think the direction to go is a bit more clearer, because you will have, let's say, a focus, right? And of course, we mentioned it a few times already, preparation is key. Know the company, know the people, know the value and the culture, and ask yourself, is it a company that you would actually like to work for? Because it's not just the company choosing you, but also you choosing the company, right? So it goes both ways. And then structure helps, of course. We've had the structure in the CVs with the 3 C's in the middle, and then, all those other components that are just as important. And for the cover letter, you have the 4 questions that you need to answer. For the interview, you have the STAR method. So structure will also really help during the entire recruitment process. Authenticity is also very important, of course. And this is, I think, is the make or break, or the deal breaker, or I don't know how you call it. But anyway, if you have 2 good candidates who are both really good, technically speaking, sometimes it is the candidate that is more authentic that is being hired for a position. I don't know why, but just out of experience, right? Because This is about building your personal brand. So this is very important. And then, of course, keep your focus, update your resume or your CV every now and then, make it count, make it relevant, and make it, adapt it to the position that you're applying for. Highlight your accomplishments more than anything else, and just stay positive, really. Okay, so that is my presentation. I tried to be quick. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but if you have any questions, I'm happy, of course, to answer them. Interest, of course, as well.
So I'm very sorry I was offline, but I think I came back right in time. And before we ask the questions, I want that everyone, Andrea, you are ready now for the picture. Please turn on your cameras for a very, very short picture. And if someone feels not confident, you're very small, actually. We did it for the webpage. We need to attract people to future events, and we want to have a glimpse of the community. And of course, Cristina Espino, thank you very much for this very interesting talk. And I like the structure a lot, and the key points to succeed, to at least get a job at Takeda, we hope so. And thank you also, Janagi, for the interesting talk and the insight in the trainee program, especially. I think it was very nice to see that you can also have a glimpse, or you have to have a glimpse of an idea what Takeda is, and to get for all the stations. Yeah, I think that's it. We have a lot of faces here, and Andrea makes the picture. And yeah, we have a few questions, actually. I want to start with the first one now. Regarding the CV, you said that the general CV can be good, but there's also some freedom. How big is the freedom? Is it unprofessional when you design your CV by your own, make drawings or whatever? Where's the border? Yeah, so where's the border between nice candidate and wow, freaky, so to say?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question, and I would say it is dependent on the role that you're applying. I think, for example, if it's a position that is going more into the creative realm, I don't know, a creative role, basically, then of course I would expect as a recruiter to find, let's say, a more authentic, creative type of format. And there are a lot of formats. Graphic CVs, I think they're being called something like that. But even Word has templates that are, supporting this. So that's fine. It's fine. But for me as a recruiter, I am expecting certain information at specific places in a document. So for me, it is important to go through a CV, to be able to go through a CV, quickly assess the points and find the points that I really need to find. And I think for this, the classic type of CV is good enough. It's more on the content rather than the formatting, in my opinion. But of course, everyone is free to use their own font, the color of the font, or you can always make tweaks. But perhaps depending on the role that you're applying, keep it more conservative or less conservative. So that's, I think,
I understand. I hope this addressed the question, but I think it was described very nicely. There was another question via social media reaching us regarding the R&D positions. They're now not anymore in Austria, I got this, but when you want to apply for an R&D position at Takeda, is a PhD mandatory?
PhD is never mandatory, in my opinion. We do have positions even where, in the job description, it would say PhD is needed, but in fact, it's always the ideal scenario, right? So if you find, and this is a really good tip that Petra also mentioned a while ago, if you see a position, don't try to click on the position first. Do not just base it on the title. but actually go through the job description. And if you identify yourself with it, go for it and apply for it. It doesn't matter if it says PhD, not PhD, or whatever, you know, if you can see yourself doing that position or in that role, then by all means, please apply.
Thank you very much. Yeah, super. Another question. When we think about the whole academia situation, we have a lot of postdocs, less professorship positions, and at some stage, all the people have to have some work. How many applications are from postdocs which somehow did not then choose the academic way? Or do you have in your company the strategy to take simply people from other companies or from freshly after their PhD, so to say? So
I think there were a lot of questions in that one question. So yes, let us try to dissect the question first. Okay, yeah. What was the first question of that question?
The first question was if you have a lot of postdocs in your company which were former academic postdocs, so to say, or if you have just postdocs in your company which are really from other companies. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And how you see this? Yeah.
It's difficult to answer, to be honest, because I have not checked. I have not made my. I did not evaluate the data that we have, so I don't know for sure how many of them have been just transferring from one company and so on. But what I can say is that we do receive, let's say in general, for one position, approximately 30 applications per role. And of course, the number decreases with the seniority level. So the more senior it becomes, the less it becomes. And of course, also when the seniority level decreases or, you know, less educational background is needed, then of course, application numbers could reach up to 200 applications per role. Really depends, but I don't know the number really of how many are PhDs coming from the university and how many just transferred.
Okay, fine. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, thank you very much. I think there are no open questions yet anymore. Maybe Benny got one question in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was already answered somehow. You mentioned that even if it says that a PhD would be nice or is required, it's not a no-go per se. But there was a question in chat regarding this minimal 2 to 3 years of working experience. So how do you evaluate these candidates that would fit the description that do not have this experience? Is it still a no-go or should they apply?
Also tricky question, because if I'm thinking about PhD applicants, most likely you will have worked on a specific project within, I don't know, a time span of 2 to 3 years or even longer. And then of course that I would already count as first experience. But if you're if you do not have any experience at all and you still like the the position, I would recommend for you to apply nonetheless. But of course, here I would also recommend for you to really look into your CV and try to highlight whatever you have done in your life that is somehow fitting to the position that you're applying for.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, then I think we are at the end. I now thank all the speakers once more for their time and for these valuable insights.